Namaskar, a warm welcome to the World News, an Indian perspective on All India Radio. This is Aditi Lumba bringing glimpses of the major developments of the day from across the globe. Over the next half an hour, we shall bring to you the latest from the world of politics, economy, sports, entertainment and more. The headlines. G20 nations and the international organizations supported the Indian proposal of Maharishi Initiative for research in millets. In Sudan, Army and the Rapid Support Forces agreed to a 24-hour ceasefire. Russian President Vladimir Putin has visited Russian-controlled Ukraine's Kherson and Luhansk regions. Kuwait's Crown Prince Sheikh Mishal Al-Ahmad Al-Jaber Al-Sabah has announced the dissolution of the 2020 National Assembly and the call for new elections in the coming months. At least 26 people searching for valuable truffles in the Syrian desert have been killed by the Islamic State group. Israeli military has carried out airstrikes in the Gaza Strip after Palestinians in the territory fired rockets at the southern Israel, and heat wave conditions intensify in eastern India, Met Department advises caution. G20 nations and international organizations supported the Indian proposal of Maharishi Initiative for research in millets and showed interest in cooperation for the extension service through Krishi Vigyan Kendras to farmers. On the second day of G20 meeting of agricultural chief scientists in Varanasi, the participating countries recognize India's strength in the seed sector, which will be very useful to other countries. The three-day G20 meeting of agricultural chief scientists with the theme Sustainable Agriculture and Food System for Healthy People and Planet is underway at Varanasi. On Tuesday, deliberations were held on digital agriculture and sustainable agri-value chain and public-private partnership in agricultural research and development. A session was conducted to discuss India's initiative on millets and other ancient grains international research initiative Maharishi. The representatives of G20 nations, invited countries and international organizations supported the Maharishi Initiative and expressed that millets, being a climate-smart crop and super health food, the international research cooperation is pivotal for its promotion and adoption. During the bilateral meeting between India and France, both countries expressed keen interest in cooperation in the areas of climate change, crop diversification, soil and water conservation, national farming and bio-fortified crops. In Himachal Pradesh, the delegates from G20 members, invited guest countries, international organizations and invited expert participants from the scientific community have started arriving in Dharamshala to attend two-day G20 Research and Innovation Initiative Gathering RIIG conference to be commenced at Dharamshala on Wednesday. About 27 foreign delegates and 35 Indian experts, delegates and invitees are expected to participate in the conference. The participants will deliberate on the ways forward towards building a sustainable, eco-innovative energy transition system. Dr. Srivari Chandrasekhar, Secretary, Department of Science and Technology, DST, Government of India and the G20 RIIG Chair will chair the meeting. Meanwhile, the responsibility of the departments has been fixed regarding the accommodation, transport, health and security arrangements of the participants. In terms of security arrangements for these guests, the HP Police has deployed additional police force in the G20 conference. The members of the Danish Parliamentary Committee for European Affairs, led by its chairman, Niels Flemming Hansen, on Tuesday called on Lok Sabha Speaker Om Birla at Parliament House. Expressing the view that both the countries support peace, democracy and human rights, Mr. Birla emphasizes on regular parliamentary exchanges between India and Denmark. He also suggested to develop a regular process of dialogue between the two countries to ensure that both the parliaments can learn from each other and share best practices. The Lok Sabha Speaker also referred to the Green Strategic Partnership between India and Denmark signed in September 2020. He added that this partnership has improved coordination between the two countries. He expressed hope that this would result in increased bilateral trade and investment in the times to come. Mr. Birla said while India is the fifth largest economy in the world on Tuesday, there is a lot of potential for the two nations in areas of mutual interest such as global and regional security issues, trade and economic ties. During the meeting, Mr. Birla informed the delegation that India has assumed the presidency of G20 with the motto, One Earth, One Family, One Future, and India's fight against climate change will unite the entire world as one family. He hoped that Denmark and India's commitment to democratic values would lead to a stronger partnership in international fora. In today's Hot Thoughts section, we bring you a news commentary on G20 Space Economy Leaders Meeting, SELM.
Under India's G20 presidency, ISRO has organized the 4th Space Economy Leaders Meeting SELM precursor event in Shillong on the 17th and 18th of April 2023. The theme of the meeting is SELM towards a new space era, economy, responsibility, alliance. This theme is in line with India's G20 summit's theme of One Earth, One Space and One Future, as we need a vital alliance of responsible space actors to enhance the contribution of the space economy at a global level. The inaugural function included an address by Mr. Somnath S., Secretary, Chairman of ISRO, Dr. Pawan Kumar Goenka, Chairman InSpace, Mr. Amitabh Kant, G20 Sherpa, Mr. Pankaj Chaudhary, Minister of State Finance, Dr. Jitendra Singh, Union Minister of State in charge, PMO, and Mr. Conrad K. Sangma, Chief Minister, Meghalaya. Union Minister Dr. Jitendra Singh addressed the gathering virtually. Dr. Singh highlighted the steps taken by the Modi government to encourage private participation in the space industry. He said India is one of the few countries with end-to-end space technology. The Chief Minister, Mr. Conrad K. Sangma, thanked Prime Minister Modi for the decision to hold G20 meetings in different parts of the country. He said space technology is helping states like Meghalaya in devising policy to address issues arising out of weather calamities. Mr. Sangma added that drones are being used to deliver medicines and essential supplies in hard-to-reach areas. He elaborated on how space technology has been a very important factor for governance in the Northeast, which is hotspot for biodiversity. Thus, space technology is helping the state governments in drafting policies and making decisions in managing the environment, forest and livelihoods. Ambassadors, high commissioners and senior diplomats of G20 and invited countries are participating in the event. Representatives from the Space Agency of Russia, the Chinese government, ministers and around 10 ambassadors are attending the meeting. Space technology-based inputs and services have become a part of our normal day-to-day life, and the contribution of space in the growth of the global economy is ever increasing. This has prompted the space agencies of G20 countries to work for including space as an agenda in G20 summits. With this objective, space agencies of Saudi Arabia, Italy and Indonesia have organized earlier editions of SELM since 2020. Shillong has been carefully selected to host this meeting, considering the fact that the northeastern region NER, with its challenging terrain and accessibility, has greatly benefited by the use of space technology applications. Shillong also hosts the Northeastern Space Applications Center, a joint initiative of the Department of Space and Northeastern Council. This center has the mandate to play the catalytic role in holistic development of NER by providing space science and technology support. The Government of India has taken a historic decision to open up the space sector to private participation. It will allow the private industry to be a co-traveler in the space industry. Indian National Space Promotion and Center InSpace has been established for promoting private sector and investment with the hand-holding of ISRO. In early April 2023, the Cabinet approved Space Policy for India, which will also encourage private industry participation. This precursor event at Shillong will be followed by the 4th edition of SELM event at Bengaluru on the 6th and 7th of July 2023, with participation from the heads of national space agencies and leaders of space industries of G20 and guest nations. The deliberations of the Shillong event will be useful to attract heads of space agencies and space industries for the Bengaluru event in July 2023.
Welcome back. In Sudan, RSF head General Mohammed Hamdan Dagalo has said that the paramilitary force has agreed to a day-long armistice to allow the safe passage of civilians, including those wounded. Mr. Dagalo, in a tweet, said the decision was reached following a conversation with U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken and outreach by other friendly nations. Sudanese army, however, said that it was unaware of any coordination with mediators or the international community regarding a 24-hour truce. The army said The RSF was planning to use this time to cover up for a crushing defeat. However, according to UN, at least 185 people have been killed and more than 1,800 wounded since fighting in Sudan began. It said the death toll is expected to be much higher as many bodies lying on the streets around central Khartoum cannot be reached given the current intensity of the fighting. Meanwhile, United Nations Secretary-General Antonio Guterres had condemned the outbreak of fighting in Sudan, calling for an immediate ceasefire. The outbreak of violence in Sudan over the weekend has trapped millions of lives in their homes, while supplies are running low in several areas. The UN chief has asked that those with influence over the situation must use it to support efforts to end the violence. Mr. Guterres said this would help restore order and return to the path of transition. India has set up a control room to assist its citizens in Sudan in view of the current situation in that country. The control room set up by the External Affairs Ministry is to provide information and assistance to the Indian citizen. The 24/7 toll-free helpline numbers are 1800-118797, 1123012113, 9111-230-14104 and 9111-230-17905. The email is situationroom@mea.gov.in. Russian President Vladimir Putin has visited Russian-controlled Ukraine's Kherson and Luhansk regions. The Kremlin said that Mr. Putin attended a military command meeting in Kherson and visited a National Guard headquarters in Luhansk on Monday. According to media reports, the visit comes as Ukrainian troops prepare for a fresh counter-offensive to reclaim the terrorists. Last month, the Russian president visited Crimea and Mariupol in Donetsk region, which are also under Russian control. Ukraine's ground forces said that Russian forces are stepping up their use of heavy artillery and air attacks in Bakhmut. This is All India Radio giving you the world news. Kuwait's Crown Prince Sheikh Mishal Al Ahmed Al Jaber Al Sabah has announced the dissolution of 2020 National Assembly and the call for new elections in the coming months. The decision was made based on Article 107 of the Constitution, which allows for such action as a constitutional solution. In a speech given on behalf of the Emir of Kuwait, Sheikh Nawaz Al Ahmed Al Jaber Al Sabah, the Crown Prince stated that the decision was a victory for the popular will and that the people of Kuwait would have the final say in determining their fate. He also emphasized the need to adhere to the Constitution, respect the will of the people, and rally around the leadership of the Supreme Commander, His Highness the Emir of the country. The decision to dissolve the National Assembly came after Constitutional Court ruled on March 19 to invalidate the 2022 National Assembly due to the invalidity of the decree dissolving the 2020 Parliament and reinstating the latter. The court also nullified the parliamentary elections process that took place last September in the 5 constituencies and invalidated the membership of those declared victorious. To accompany the decision to dissolve the National Assembly, the Crown Prince announced a set of political and legal reforms aimed at transferring the state to a new stage of discipline and legal reference. The reforms aim to prevent disagreements and abuse of power by the legislative and executive authorities and ensure the impartiality and integrity of the judicial authority by strengthening the system of governance in its composition and competencies. The announcement comes amid a political scene in Kuwait that has caused anxiety among citizens, and the Crown Prince's decision to dissolve the National Assembly is seen as a step towards resolving the situation and restoring stability to the country. At least 26 people searching for valuable truffles in the Syrian desert have been killed by the Islamic State group, state media and activists say. Civilians and pro-government fighters were among the victims of the attack on Sunday in Hama province, the Syrian Observatory for Human Rights reported. Syria's state-run Sana news agency cited a police source as saying that IS militants attacked a group of civilians in the village of Dovizin in the eastern countryside of Hama, killing 26 of them. The Syrian Observatory for Human Rights, SOHR, a UK-based monitoring group that relies on a wide network of sources on the ground in Syria, put the death toll at 36 and said the victims included at least 17 fighters from the pro-government National Defense Forces. IS militants have repeatedly preyed on those searching for the fungus, with more than 150 people killed this year. A kilogram can fetch more than the country's average monthly wage. Searching for the truffles is extremely dangerous, as hunters content with landmines with IS fighters maintain hideouts in the desert where they grow. But many who face poverty and unemployment exacerbated by Syria's war risk the dangers, as the fungus can sell for up to $25 per kilogram depending on size and grade in a country where the average monthly wage is around $18. Syrian President Bashar al-Assad has met with Saudi Foreign Minister Prince Faisal bin Farhan in the most significant step yet towards ending Syria's decade-long regional isolation. Bin Farhan landed in Damascus on Tuesday, Syrian state media reported, a week after his Syrian counterpart visited Saudi Arabia. The visit is the first by a Saudi official to Syria's capital since the start of the country's civil war in 2011. The Saudi Foreign Ministry said in an online statement that the visit showed the kingdom's desire to find a political solution to Syria's conflict that would preserve the country's Arab identity and return it its Arab surroundings. Al-Assad has been politically isolated in the region since the conflict began, but a flurry of diplomatic activity has been underway in the past week as regional relations shift following a decision by Saudi Arabia and Damascus's ally Iran to resume ties. The trip comes less than a week after Syrian Foreign Minister Faisal Mekdad visited Saudi Arabia, also on the first such visit since the conflict began. The Israel military has carried out airstrikes in the Gaza Strip after Palestinians in the territory fired rockets at southern Israel. 6 rockets were launched from Gaza at dawn, 5 of which were intercepted, the military said. Shortly afterwards, Israeli warplanes hit what it identified as 2 Hamas militant sites. No one is reported to have been hurt. The exchange follows an Israeli raid in Nablus in the occupied West Bank on the Wednesday, which killed 11 Palestinians. Both Hamas, which controls Gaza, and Palestinian Islamic Jihad had issued threats of retaliation. UN Middle East envoy Tor Wennesland, who has been involved in mediation efforts to try to stop an escalation, along with Egyptian officials, traveled to Gaza on Thursday to meet leaders of Hamas. In Pakistan, at least 2 people were killed and dozens more are fear-trapped under rubble following a landslide in northwest Khyber Pass. At least 10 trucks were buried, while other vehicles were covered by the landslide on the main road through the pass during a thunder and lightning storm close to Torkham border. According to the officials, 3 injured persons have been found. Search was on for more survivors when reports last came in. The Indian Air Force is participating in a multilateral exercise Orion at Mont-de-Marsan in France. The exercise began on Monday. The Defence Ministry said this is the first overseas exercise for the Indian Air Force Rafale aircraft. The ministry said the exercise will imbibe best practices from other air forces into the Indian Air Force. Air forces from Germany, the United Kingdom and the United States of America are amongst the nations participating in the exercise, which will continue till 5th of next month. Labour and Employment Ministry has asked all the states and union territories to ensure preparedness and effective management of impact of ensuing heat wave conditions on workers and labourers working in different sectors. In a letter addressed to Chief Secretaries of all states and union territories, Labour Secretary Aarti Ahuja emphasized upon the need to issue directions to the employers, construction companies and industries to undertake necessary steps to mitigate the adverse effects of extreme hot weather. The Labour Secretary referred to the seasonal outlook issued by Indian Meteorological Department for hot weather season during current year, which indicates above normal maximum temperatures over most parts of the northeast India, east and central India and some parts of northwest India. The letter lists out various strategic steps required to be taken, which include rescheduling of working hours for employees and workers, ensuring adequate drinking water facilities at workplaces, making provision for emergency ice packs, and heat illness prevention material to construction workers and coordinating with health department to ensure regular health checkup of the workers. The letter also stressed upon the need to issue instructions to the managements of mines, asking them to undertake immediate steps to make provision for rest areas, adequate quantity of cool water and electrolyte supplements near the workplace. More than 6,000 men and women of the United Kingdom's armed forces will participate in the historic coronation of King Charles III and Queen Camilla next month, United Kingdom's Ministry of Defence said. In the largest military ceremonial operation for 70 years, sailors, soldiers and aviators from across the UK and the breadth of the Commonwealth will take part in two magnificent processions accompanying the King and the Queen to and from Westminster Abbey, where the coronation service takes place. Military personnel will conduct a breathtaking coronation flypast later in the day, where more than 60 aircraft from the Royal Navy, British Army and the Royal Air Force will fly over the Mall in central London. From military bases in all the corners of the country and on ships at sea, gun salutes will sound out to the herald the moment when King is crowned. U.S. President Joe Biden has said that electric vehicle sales under his administration have tripled, and proposing standards towards bringing down the carbon pollution, the United States of America is creating a network of 500,000 EV chargers. He said that the country has seen over $90 billion private investment in the EV battery manufacturing. Mr. Biden said that investing in clean energy and electric vehicles, it will create hundreds of thousands of new jobs and also combat climate change. He said that the U.S. is working towards building a clean energy future. An earthquake of magnitude 6.3 on the Richter scale hit Fiji on Tuesday. The National Center for Seismology, which is the nodal agency of the Government of India for monitoring earthquake activity, said the epicenter of the quake was 485 kilometers south of Suva in Fiji at a depth of 569 kilometers. No casualties have been reported so far. The White House has sharply criticized Brazilian President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva for accusing the United States of encouraging the war in Ukraine. U.S. National Security Council spokesman John Kirby accused Lula of parroting Russian and Chinese propaganda. Lula, who has pitched himself as a broker for peace talks to end the conflict, said over the weekend that the United States needs to stop encouraging war and start talking about peace. Mr. Lula's comments came after meeting Chinese President Xi Jinping. China published a peace plan in February that does not explicitly call for Russia to leave Ukraine. Visiting Brazil, Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov met Lula and thanked Brazil for its efforts. Mr. Lavrov, who visited Brasilia on Monday, said that Moscow was grateful to our Brazilian friends for their clear understanding of the genesis of the situation. In response to Mr. Kirby's statement, Brazilian Foreign Minister Mauro Vieira said that he does not know why he reached that conclusion, but we do not agree at all. Brazil has not joined Western countries in imposing sanctions on Russia and has refused requests to supply ammunition to Ukraine. While Brazil is calling for peace talks, Ukraine and its allies say an immediate ceasefire would allow Russia to keep hold of territory it illegally obtained through force. A Russian court has rejected the appeal of U.S. journalist Ivan Gershkovich against his pre-trial detention. He appeared in court Moscow on Tuesday, the first time he had seen in public for weeks. Mr. Gershkovich, 31, was arrested on 29th March and could face up to 20 years in prison if found guilty of espionage. He was arrested in the city of Yekaterinburg while working for the Wall Street Journal WSJ newspaper. More than 40 countries led by the U.S. released a joint statement at the United Nations on Monday calling for Gershkovich's release and condemning Moscow for intimidating the media. The key domestic indices today closed with modest losses. The BSE Sensex and the NSE Nifty both fell amid mixed global cues. A report from the business desk.
Sensex declined 184 points, or 0.31%, to finish at 59,727. Nifty at the National Stock Exchange also lost 47 points, or 0.26%, to settle at 17,660. Asia shares a mix amid reports of stronger than expected recovery in pandemic hit Chinese economy. Japan's Nikkei 225 gained 0.5%, and China Shanghai Composite Index added marginally by 0.2%. On the other hand, Hong Kong's Hang Seng declined 0.6%, Singapore Straits Times fell 0.3%, and South Korea's Kospi slid 0.2%. European stocks held near a 14-month high amid positive cues from the US markets. Oil fell for a second day as upbeat Chinese economic data failed to reflect the focus from a possible increase to US interest rates and wider concern about the growth outlook. In intraday trade, Brent crude was trading at around $84.25 per barrel. Back home, the gold price of the multi-commodity exchange for June contracts was trading at around 60,335 rupees per 10 grams. Silver was trading at around 74,880 rupees per kilogram for May contracts when reports last came in. In the foreign exchange market, the rupee closed at 82 rupees and 4 paise against the US currency. Arjun Chaudhary for World News, All India Radio.
Now let us take a look at the major developments around the world as reported in the foreign press. The New York Times reports how Mexico became the biggest user of the world's most notorious spy tool. The Globe and Mail reports New York woman driven to wrong address, fatally shot by home owner. The Straits Times writes campaigners sue EU for labelling gas and nuclear investments as green. The Wall Street Journal reports Goldman Sachs reports lower profit, sells parts of Marcus Loan's portfolio. Le Monde writes Macron promises government action plan in next 100 days amid political impasse over pension reform. The Financial Times reports 2 charged in New York with running secret police station for China. And the Japan Times reports Pentagon culls distribution list for sensitive documents after Intel leak. A quick look at the headlines once again. G20 nations and international organizations supported the Indian proposal of Maharishi Initiative for research in millets. In Sudan, Army and the Rapid Forces agreed to do a 24-hour ceasefire. Russian President Vladimir Putin has visited Russian-controlled Ukraine's Kherson and Luhansk regions. Kuwait's Crown Prince Sheikh Mishal Al-Ahmad Al-Jaber Al-Sabah has announced a dissolution of the 2020 National Assembly and the call for new elections in the coming months. At least 26 people searching for valuable truffles in the Syrian desert have been killed by the Islamic State group. Israeli military has carried out airstrikes in the Gaza Strip after Palestinians in the territory fired rockets at southern Israel. And heat wave conditions intensify in eastern India. Met Department advises caution. And now, before we end, let us listen to Mahatma Gandhi's favorite bhajan, Vaishnavajan, by artists from Ghana. And with that, we end this bulletin. We'll be back at the same time tomorrow with the next edition of the World News.